Today, we're going to be back in Portainer and we're going to get some services installed. We're going to get FreshRSS installed so you can have all of your news articles and other sources all in one nice list so you can prioritize where you want to be spending your time learning more things or just generally being entertained. The other thing that we're going to get done today is we're going to get NextCloud installed. That way, as we continue through this series, you have somewhere to put all your notes that you're self-hosting instead of like Apple Notes or Google Docs or any of that stuff. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Today, we're going to dive back into Portainer and we're finally going to get some of our first services installed. What I thought would be cool to start off with is FreshRSS. What FreshRSS is a free self-hostable feed aggregator. So what this allows you to do is take basically all the news sites that you might go to on a daily basis. So for me, I'm an Apple user. I like Apple products. I tend to check the news on Apple stuff fairly frequently, such as 9 to 5 Mac and Mac Rumors, Mac Stories. You got the idea. Well, instead of having to go to each one of those sites through FreshRSS, I can just have a feed that has all the articles. Most importantly, with it being self-hosted, that means you're not going to have to deal with all the ads or the tracking cookies or anything else. You're just kind of basically scraping the data and then moving on. But it's not really scraping because this is what RSS is for. Let's get this installed. I already reconnected our Docker to Portainer, so we're live here, and we can see that if we go to the dashboard, we have 2 containers, 2 images, 1 stack. And if we go to the containers, you can see that it is the old hello world, which is from the last video. That's where we did that test and it just printed all that stuff out on the terminal. That's what this is from. And then obviously you can see that we have Portainer. So we're going to go to stacks. And stacks in Portainer is more or less how you do Docker Compose. So we're going to go ahead and add a stack. And then you get this nice web editor, just super slick of just being able to type in what you need and then move on. If you already have a file or you grabbed it from GitHub, you can upload it. And then something we're going to do in a later video is use this, which is allowing us to just tie this into a repository and then get the Docker Compose from there. So this goes into the whole CI/CD DevOps thing that I want to do later with this Mac Mini. But again, another video, not right now. And then if you have a custom template for like any sort of environment variables, usernames, passwords, you can just upload that here too, which is pretty sweet. We're going to use the web editor, and I already pulled this up. So linuxserver.io does a lot of different Docker containers for services and kind of, I don't want to say makes it a little bit simpler, but they definitely reduce some of the complexity or some of the learning that most people would suggest you do. For this case, we're just going to grab this and then we can just drop this in here. I am going to make one change though. I'm going to map this to port 8080. Actually, I'm going to do 8081. The reason I'm doing this is port 80 is the default HTTP port. 8080 is kind of like the next default one, so we're going to do 8081. That way, just as we move forward in the video, if I accidentally do 8080, I kind of prevented myself from making that mistake. The reason we do this is you can't have multiple things mapped to the same port. Now that we have this here, we do need to give this a name, which it has to be all lowercase. We're going to call this, I think you can do dashes in this. Yeah, FreshRSS. We're not going to worry about any environment variables or anything else. And then this should work. Let's deploy it. All right, and you can see up in the top right here, it says success, stack successfully deployed. What I have learned from using Portainer is just because it says it's successfully deployed, it more means that it didn't find errors in the compose, not necessarily that the stack actually is now running and healthy. So what we'll do to check that is we'll actually go down to containers, and we can see here it does say that FreshRSS is running. So what we'll do is grab the IP from up here, then is we're going to go to that port that we assigned. So we're going to go to 8081, or not. Okay, so I am a bit tired this morning. Right here's our issue. It's trying to map path to FreshRSS/config as the config. That doesn't exist. So that would be the issue that we're running into and would explain why we're having so many problems. Okay, so what we're going to do to correct that is I'm just going to map it to whatever directory it's in, and that should be fine. And we're just going to update the stack and see what it does. And if we go here to containers, we can see that it's running, and supposedly it's published on port 80. So we're once again just going to grab the IP here because I can't be bothered to actually type that in. We're going to come here, paste that in, and we should be going to port 80. Nope, not 8080, just 80. And there we go. This is one of the issues you can run into when you're doing Docker containers and you're not paying attention like I did this morning. Only had 1 cup of coffee, and that was not the right amount of coffee to start doing sysadmin work on a Saturday morning. So again, the issue that we ran into and how we fixed it, I think is really important to highlight because this is kind of the problem you're going to run into all the time. What a lot of projects do is just tell you in the configuration file, since you should be reviewing it before you deploy anything, where you need to change things. So like path to your config, like that's where they're telling you like, hey, you need to update this. Most projects aren't going to have it commented out and just be screaming at you like, hey, change this. You need to change it. Oh my God. That's not going to happen. They're just going to, in the config file, or in the Docker Compose, or whatever you're doing, it's just going to say like path to your, and then you have to change it to whatever your path is. It's just a little bit of a cleaner documentation method that a lot of them do. Needless to say, though, we have FreshRSS and it is up and running, which is awesome. Now we have to do the install. We're doing English. It looks like all our PHP stuff is good. File installation's good. So let's go to step 2. Type of database. We're going to keep it simple. SQLite. Default name of the user. Just going to go with admin to keep it simple for this entire thing. Web form, we're going to go with that. Password, we're going to once again do a super secure password. I recommend you do the same, but maybe actually a real secure password. We'll complete our installation. And there we go. Now we're at the login page of FreshRSS. Let's go ahead and do admin, and then again, our super secure password. And there we are. FreshRSS installed on our Mac Mini, locally hosted. It's beautiful. So now, again, the key here. So what do we want to do? Well, I said about Apple. So let me go to 9to5Mac. And here they are. All right, and there we go. So if you go to most sites and just do /RSS, that is going to, in fact, be their URL for their RSS feed. So we got that. Let's go back to FreshRSS. We're going to add. We're going to go category. Oh, let's add a category. Let's add Tim Apple. Very nice. Empty category. Let's add a feed. And the feed's going to be that link from FreshRSS, and we're just going to hit add. As you can see here, it pulled in the icon, the title, what the description's going to be, all this different information. I'm good with all that. Let's do it. Feed has been updated. Let's click out of all that, hit the menu button, and voila. Just like that, we have a whole bunch of news from 9to5Mac. So let's look at this. There you go. You can see it'll take us to the link then. There are ways to make it be that it doesn't short out the information. You can basically expand it from the site and pull all of it in. And that's just through some of the plugins that they have. We're going to take a quick aside, and I wanted to bring up Lawrence Systems. So Lawrence Systems is a YouTube channel, does a lot of Homelab stuff too. It's definitely a channel that I've taken inspiration from, and is part of the reason why I wanted to start a YouTube channel and start sharing some of my information that might be useful to people that maybe look at things a little bit differently, like I do myself. One of the cool things about Tom from Lawrence Systems is he loves open source. And I think one of the coolest things is he actually has his FreshRSS feed that you can just grab and plug into yours. And the reason this is so cool to me is he takes the time to remove all the subscriptions that he has, that he pays for, and just has this all set up. So what we can do to get the same thing that he does is we can download the raw file. We can go back to here. And what we're going to do then is we're going to go to import. We can actually just pick a file. That's super cool. We can come down here, just grab his file. And we can just import it. Updates feed button. If we're done, and this is what the updates feed button is. So we've imported his file, and now watch this. Look at all that. Look at all those awesome news sources that are just getting pulled in. That's the beauty of FreshRSS, and the beauty of like these files is you can build out all of your news and then convert it to that file type and then send it to your friends. And then they can also have the same news stuff that you do super easily. And wait for that to be done. And then look at this. On the left-hand side, you can see the Tim Apple category that I did. Then you can also see all the news sites that he has, hacking write-ups, the subreddits for Homelab. The uncategorized one is the default from FreshRSS. And you can also see all the awesome channels from YouTube that he also recommends. I love FreshRSS, and it's definitely something that I plan to continue to use and use a lot more, and I think it would be useful in your Homelab too. Now, this isn't the only thing that we wanted to get done today. We did at least want to get one other Docker thing running because, well, just having one isn't really much of a Homelab or much of a self-host. All right, now that FreshRSS is fully installed, let's get one other quick thing done today. Let's grab NextCloud. And we have somewhere to put our notes. There's a lot of things you can do with NextCloud, but the fact that it's Markdown makes it pretty nice to just throw stuff into. And while we're building out the Homelab, you might want to take notes, but you might not want to use Apple Notes or something else where the cloud's involved. You want to put it on your own cloud, your Mac Mini, the Homelab. Again, that's the whole point of doing all of this. If you work in IT or are planning to work in IT, it's good to self-host some of your own things, in my opinion, because you get a lot more exposure to the different things that can either go wrong or how frustrating it is when certain services don't work as intended, or you have run into bad documentation, people that just tell you to RTFM, etc. It's just another rep to get better at something. I found a Docker Compose that we're going to use, which totally wasn't the first result on Google, and we're going to modify it a little bit to make sense for us. And we're just going to call this NextCloud. I almost typed TrueNAS. That would have been funny. Again, you always want to use super secure passwords for everything, and you don't want to use the defaults and stuff. So we're going to follow that advice and use very secure passwords for our lab. And again, so what we're doing here, MariaDB, NextCloud does need a database, just like FreshRSS, except FreshRSS uses SQLite, which is a lot more simpler than running a full-blown database like MariaDB. We're going to grab the latest version. I'm fine with that. I'm not scared of running into issues. Here's that port conflict I said about earlier. This also wants to use 8080. What we're going to do here is I'm actually just going to make this be 8084. Those are all good. No weird pathing here. You can see that it mounts it directly just in the folder that we're currently in, and then just makes it be the NextCloud stuff. So we're good there. We're good with all that. Change this, your domain or IP. That's going to be the same IP as the current box. So 192.168.1.51. We will get rid of that comment just in case we would think that we need to change this stuff again. Again, good practice is if you're not going to take documentation, try to keep your stuff somewhat self-documenting. That way, when you come back to it in a week and you don't remember a single damn thing, you're not undoing all the work that you just did. So that all looks good. We're going to go ahead and hit deploy the stack, and then in just a little bit, we should have a NextCloud instance. NextCloud is now installed, it looks like, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at that. Both services are running, so we should be good to go. And let's just go over here. We're going to paste that in, and this should be port, what did we do, 8085, I think? I was wrong already. It's 8084, not 8085. Hey, there we go. 192.168.1.51, 8084. We are ready to go. So now we're going to create our admin account. So we're going to create admin. And then we're going to use that super secure password. Don't tell me it's average. It's very secure. Okay. So we're running into some issues already, which, to be fair, I'm not really that surprised by. So let's go back to our editor and try to figure out. It'd help if I pick the right stack. Let's go back to NextCloud. Let's go back to our editor and try to figure out what we might have messed up here. So we have our passwords, and that's all good. Password. Okay. All right, so I think what the issue was is we had the environment variable down here set to something else. So let's just try updating the stack and see if that's it. Reading documentation is definitely going to help you. And now if we just refresh this page, configuration found. So we're going to do admin. And again, we're going to pick our very secure password. We're going to hit install. We're going to hit not now. And that's exactly what the issue was. So again, if you're changing stuff at one spot, you got to change it at multiple spots. So with the issue that we ran into this time, and again, you're going to run into issues all the time. So it's always good to figure out how you're troubleshooting. The issue that we ran into was in the environment up here at the top. We set the password to 123 for my SQL password. But then down here, my SQL password is still set to nextcloud_password. And that wasn't what it was looking for in the environment. So you got to make sure you're changing stuff all around. This is also why people use .env files or environment files. That way you can just use a variable, and then you don't have to remember to switch it at the same spot all the time, which is like the whole point of abstraction. Now that we're here, and at NextCloud, we're going to quickly do admin, and then we're going to do our super secure password, and we're going to sign in, not now. And bam, you get a fun little splash screen just like that. So NextCloud is, well, exactly kind of what it sounds like. It's your NextCloud. It is literally a cloud. So we go to files, for example. Bam, we got a bunch of files. There's ways to get Office-style apps in here, calendars, video calling, instant messaging, basically Microsoft 365, but self-hosted. Again, this is another huge open source project. There's a lot you can do with it. I tend to mainly just use it for a lot of notes. I don't really like a lot of the other aspects. And then also, most importantly for me, is the fact that you can upload multiple different media types. As you can see here, you can upload photos, as PNGs, MP4s, PDFs, Markdown, and you're able to just pull this stuff up and take a look at it. See? And you can read through the nice PDF and see what NextCloud's all about, which is awesome. So today we got FreshRSS installed along with NextCloud, and now you have two services that you're self-hosting that you can use now every day. The cool part about this is for the most part, it shouldn't really have too much of an impact on our system. We should still be ready to go to get the next service installed. In this case, the next thing that I want to get done is install Wuzza. So we're going to kind of start to lean into the security path a little bit here. And I just really wanted to mess with Wuzza because they've updated it and I haven't messed with it since. So, well, we're doing Wuzza. What that means, though, is we're going to definitely go into the security path first and dive into some of those topics and content. And then we will be switching over then to the DevOps. That's going to be it for me today, though. And this is the awkward point in a video when every YouTuber normally has like some sort of crazy, awesome outro, or at least cringy enough that you remember it outro. Instead, I'm just going to point at wherever the thing should be to either watch me yapping in another video or the button that tells you when I'm yapping again, which they call the subscribe button or something. Click one of those, and if you can't find any of those, there should be a like button down below that you can click. Or, I don't know, go find another YouTuber. Anyways, here's your recommended video that's probably like cats or something.